So before this video starts, one quick little ramble here. I tried to buy a green screen to make this look a whole lot better. However, the green screen didn't work and unfortunately became very useless, so I had to compromise real quick. So here we go. If this looks bad, let me know. If it looks good, let me know. If this video is bad, let me know. If this video is good, let me know. Please let me know. Please, please, please. On to the video. Growing up, I always enjoyed the idea of wanting to travel across the world. And just as soon as I was about ready to do so, the year was 2020, and things were not good during that year. Fortunately, during that time though, I was able to figure out what I wanted to do with traveling. Despite the fact that at first I wanted to travel to Japan, what ended up happening was a whole lot more traveling before going to Japan. I've already covered my Japan trip in a lot of detail in one of my last videos. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. Sorry, it's a long video. I rambled through a lot, and this one's probably going to be no different. However, there was actually a handful of other trips that I took before that Japan trip that I do want to talk about. Maybe not necessarily in as much detail, because I don't want to be here for that long talking about all these trips, but I do have pictures and I do have videos that I still want to show off and show, so let's get into it. Now yes, we were in lockdown throughout the course of the year 2020 and most of 2021. However, I was able to actually go out and actually fly out to a place for the first time, go into an airport for the first time, and enjoy what was a first time trip for not only me, going to a new place, across the country, I should say, but also meeting one of my online friends for the first time as I took a trip over to Daytona Beach and I went to see the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona, and it was a blast, all things considered, and I really enjoyed my time down in Florida, especially meeting one of my friends that I've known for about 10 years now up to this point. Now, I mentioned that was my first time flying. It was my first time flying, but I had been traveling around quite a bit before the pandemic. Every other year, my family would go somewhere, either to Cleveland or Detroit or somewhere in or around this part of the United States. But going to Florida, that was my first time not only going to Florida, but also going to Florida via plane and an airport. And I had a lot of fun. But my airport knowledge would be put to the test on my next trip, which was to Germany. Story on how I ended up going to Germany is a little crazier than just me saying I'm going to Germany. During the year 2021, I did end up booking a flight to go to Tokyo, Japan, with one of my buddies. We had a plan on going to Japan ever since we wanted to graduate from high school. In fact, once we graduated high school in 2020, the best year to graduate from high school, I guess, we were going to get on a flight and head out to Tokyo pretty much as soon as the ceremony was over. That didn't happen for obvious reasons. And with that, we ended up having to kind of compromise, and we decided to go our separate ways with our Japan trips, unfortunately. However, because I couldn't actually fly to Japan due to certain circumstances, what ended up happening was I had to use that ticket to go somewhere else. And I threw a dart at the wall that ended up being a world map, and it landed on Germany. So I ended up searching up places to go for Germany, and I ended up in a place called Munich. Now, Munich is definitely a place that I really enjoyed being in, and I was only there for about 2 weeks, so I wasn't there for a whole long time, but I was there long enough to enjoy what was a very spectacular place, ate lots of good food, and gained about 20 pounds. Not really, it was more like, 5, but it felt like 20 to me because I am a skinny fuck. Germany was a lot of fun for me, but also at the same time too, we were still in that lockdown period, and because of that, there was a period of time where if you wanted to get through an airport, you had to jump through a lot more hoops than you normally had to in order to go from point A to point B in an airport. There was a moment in time where I thought I was not going to be able to return home because of this little story here that I want to give off before continuing on with some of my extra journeys. Going to Germany at the time was pretty easy. It was not that way over coming back. So on the way back, you had to submit a COVID test, and they never really specified how you got the COVID test. You just had to submit a COVID test. And, because of that, there was a lot of scrambling. There was a lot of running around the airport at the very last minute trying to find tests and find official ways of getting tested. I ended up having to go get tested at an official testing facility, and the testing facility said that the results of the test would not come in until like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how busy they were. Well, my flight left at approximately an hour and a half as I was getting the test, and I didn't get the results until an hour and a half after I got the test. So my flight was scheduled to depart about 5 minutes before I got my results for the test. So I thought for a moment I was going to be fucked and had to stay a little longer in Germany than I had to. But thankfully that didn't happen, and I was on my way back. And it was, you know, as stressful as the time that was, I look back on it with a lot of fond memories, and that was fun. That was a fun time, all things considered. Really enjoyed Munich, really enjoyed walking around the streets of Munich, and the pictures are just flat out incredible, including this one in particular that had no filter on it. There's no filter on that exact photo. It looks like it, but there's none. Actually, it's just taken straight from this camera right here that I'm using. And by camera, I mean my iPhone. Pretty much after Germany, what ended up happening was in between Germany and Japan, there was one little thing that happened in between there, and that ended up being something that's been going on pretty much every year ever since. So me and my friends have been friends for a long time. Like I said, 10 years, roughly, up to this point, and we were around, I think, 5 to 6 years into our friendship before we decided that, hey, now is the next step. We're gonna start meeting up with each other. So let's find out a way to meet up with each other and go from there. So what we ended up doing was we decided to take an annual trip over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to watch the Indy 500. In between the trip to Munich and the trip to Japan, that was our first year of doing so. We went to Indianapolis for the first time back in 2022. We had a blast. We enjoyed it. It was scuffed, but it was really fun regardless. And thankfully, it's become a yearly tradition ever since. Although saying that, I don't know if it's going to be that way for me at least anymore because of what's going to be going on next year. But still working out the fine details on that. It might happen, it might not happen. I have no idea. Outside of the trip to Japan and the trips to Indianapolis, there's really not much more to that. However, I have been to Indianapolis outside of the Indianapolis 500 weekend in May. I took a trip down to Indianapolis one more time last year, in fact, to watch the Colts play the Raiders and what was the best game that I'll ever watch in my lifetime. And it'll forever be the last good game I'll ever watch in my entire lifetime because this team sucks now. But outside of all of that, sadly, there's really not much more to it. I took a trip to Daytona Beach. I remember that one very fondly. I took a trip to Munich, Germany. I remember that trip very fondly, even if it had some moments. Indianapolis, been to the 500 multiple times, enjoyed every single one of them. Outside of that, I mean, like, I've been to Detroit to watch the final Belle Isle race towards the middle of 2022, but after that and the Japan trip, that's really all I've been able to accomplish because I've had my mind focused on saving for the big time move that I've been planning on doing for the last several years, which hopefully up to this point has a critical step forward and not just me saying this again without acting upon it. So we'll see how this works. We'll just see how this works. This is just mainly a video that I wanted to make, not necessarily for any other reason outside of I'm just trying to test the waters with the green screen, which is unfortunately now just something that I have to edit in video instead of it being behind me. I tried. I wanted to have a green screen, but unfortunately that is not the case. I wanted to have a green screen and this thing, but unfortunately I can only have this thing, and you know, you can't really even see it anyways unless I zoom myself out a whole lot more than I need to. So, but I'm testing the waters here with YouTube, and I'm just hoping that, you know, this kind of video leads to more of the same kind of style, but different topics and stuff like that, if that makes any sense. Hopefully everything just works out good here. But outside of that, that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know where you've been in your lifetime if you have. And I hope that this little video here helps kind of paint more of a picture of who I am as a person. I love traveling, I love seeing places, and I'd like to continue that throughout my life. So there's that. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care and have a good one.
Go white boy, go.
Go white boy, go.